The fluorescent lights of Westfield Shopping Center cast harsh shadows across the polished marble floor, as 11-year-old Brielle Carter pressed her favorite stuffed elephant against her chest, its soft purple fabric providing the sensory comfort she desperately needed. The mall buzzed with Saturday afternoon energy, families weaving between storefronts while teenagers clustered around bubble tea stands, and elderly couples navigated with careful steps. "Excuse me, Miss..." The voice cut through the ambient noise like a blade. Officer Marcus Webb stepped forward, his partner, Officer Lisa Chen, flanking him on the right. Both wore the crisp blue uniforms of the local police department, their badges catching the overhead lighting. "We need to speak with you about some missing merchandise." Brielle's grip tightened on her elephant, her dark eyes darting between the two officers. The sounds of the mall seemed to amplify suddenly, conversations becoming a cacophony, footsteps echoing like thunder. She began to rock slightly, a self-soothing behavior that had become second nature over her 11 years of life. "I didn't take anything," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the mall's din. "Mama has all the receipts." Officer Webb's expression remained stern, unmoved by the child's obvious distress. "That's what they all say. We have video footage of you leaving Sephora with unpaid merchandise. Specifically, a tube of lip gloss worth $12.99. 30 feet away, Lieutenant Colonel Dana Carter slipped her foot into a black patent leather pump, testing the fit. The shoes were perfect for Monday's budget meeting with the state police commissioner, where she would present her quarterly report on internal affairs investigations. As Director of Internal Affairs for the state police, she had seen enough corruption and misconduct to understand the importance of accountability in law enforcement. The shoe fit perfectly, but something in the air had changed. The general hum of conversation had shifted, becoming more focused, more intense. Years of police work had honed her instincts, and something was wrong. "I have the receipt," Brielle repeated, her voice gaining strength despite the tremor that ran through her small frame. "It's in my backpack, with my sensory cards and my weighted blanket." Officer Chen stepped closer, her hand moving to rest on her utility belt. "Young lady, we're going to need you to come with us for a quick search. It's just procedure." The word search triggered something primal in Brielle's mind. Her therapist had worked with her extensively on unexpected situations, but this scenario had never been covered in their sessions. The rocking motion increased, and she began to hum a low, almost inaudible tune, another coping mechanism that helped regulate her sensory overload. Dana's head snapped up at the sound of her daughter's humming. She had heard that particular tune countless times during difficult moments, after overwhelming school days, during thunderstorms, whenever Brielle felt unsafe or threatened. The shoes forgotten. She rose from the cushioned bench and scanned the crowded mall corridor. "Behind the kiosk," Officer Webb commanded, gesturing toward a small enclosed area between two storefronts where a cell phone accessory stand created a natural alcove. "We need to conduct a thorough search to locate the stolen merchandise." Shoppers began to notice the commotion. A woman with a baby stroller slowed her pace, craning her neck to see what was happening. Two teenagers pulled out their phones, sensing drama worthy of social media documentation. "Please don't make me go behind there," Brielle pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. "I don't like small spaces. I didn't steal anything. Please call my mama." Officer Chen's patience seemed to evaporate. "Listen, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You're coming with us either way." Dana's training kicked in as she spotted the scene unfolding 50 yards away. Two officers, one child, elevated stress levels, and a growing crowd of onlookers. Her protective instincts as a mother warred with her analytical mind as a law enforcement professional. Something about the officer's body language suggested this was escalating beyond normal protocol. She began moving through the crowd, her years of physical training allowing her to navigate efficiently between shoppers while maintaining visual contact with her daughter. "I need to see your hands," Officer Webb demanded, his voice rising above the mall's ambient noise. "Remove the backpack and place it on the ground." Brielle's stimming intensified. She began flapping her free hand, the motion helping her process the overwhelming sensory input and emotional distress. The purple elephant remained clutched against her chest, a lifeline in an increasingly chaotic situation. "I can't," she said, tears beginning to stream down her cheeks. "These are my safe things. My therapist says I need them when I feel scared." The mention of therapy seemed to irritate Officer Chen further. "Ma'am, we don't have time for games. Remove the backpack now, or we'll remove it for you." Without waiting for compliance, Officer Webb reached for the backpack straps. The sudden physical contact sent Brielle into a full sensory meltdown. Her humming became louder, more urgent, and she began to spin in small circles while clutching her elephant. "Stop touching me!" she cried out, her voice echoing off the mall's high ceilings. "I don't like to be touched by strangers." Dana's walk became a purposeful stride as she recognized the signs of her daughter's distress. Brielle's autism made her particularly sensitive to unexpected physical contact, loud noises, and confined spaces. The officers were unknowingly triggering every one of her daughter's known stressors. Officer Webb's frustration boiled over. He produced a tactical knife from his belt and began cutting through the backpack straps, the sharp blade slicing through the durable nylon material with ease. "No!" Brielle screamed, watching her carefully organized support items scatter across the mall floor. Sensory cards with calming images fluttered like confetti. Her weighted blanket, essential for regulation during overwhelming moments, lay crumpled beside a potted plant. A small container of putty, used for anxiety management, rolled under a nearby bench. The crowd grew larger. Smartphones appeared in multiple hands, capturing video of the unfolding drama. The modern reality of public incidents meant that within minutes, this scene would be broadcast across social media platforms, viewed by thousands of strangers. Dana was close enough now to hear every word, to see the terror in her daughter's eyes, to witness the complete disregard for proper protocol and basic human decency. Her badge meant she understood police procedure better than most civilians. What she was witnessing was not standard operating procedure for questioning a minor. "Officers," she called out, her voice carrying the authority earned through 20 years of law enforcement experience. "I'm this child's mother, and I'd like to see what evidence you have for this search." Officer Chen barely glanced in her direction. "Ma'am, please step back. This is an active police investigation." "An investigation into what?" "Exactly." Dana's voice remained level, professional, but those who knew her well would recognize the steel beneath the surface. "I'd like to see the security footage that prompted this interaction." Officer Webb had produced a pair of handcuffs and was advancing on Brielle, who had backed against the wall of the kiosk. Her meltdown was reaching critical levels, her vocalizations becoming more distressed, her body movements more erratic. "She's resisting arrest," he announced to his partner, as if Brielle's autism-related behaviors were somehow criminal acts. "Arrest for what?" Dana demanded, pushing through the ring of spectators. "You haven't identified yourselves properly. You haven't stated charges. And you're terrorizing a child with special needs." The handcuffs clicked around Brielle's thin wrists, the metal cold against her skin. The physical restraint sent her into complete overload. She collapsed to the floor, her body convulsing with the intensity of her meltdown, her cries echoing throughout the shopping center. Dana's training warred with her maternal instincts. Every fiber of her being wanted to charge forward and protect her daughter. but her professional experience knew that any sudden movement could escalate the situation further. Instead, she reached slowly into her jacket pocket. "Officers," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a command. "I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dana Carter, Director of Internal Affairs for the State Police. I'm showing you my badge and identification." The badge emerged from her jacket, its gold surface catching the fluorescent lights. The shield design was unmistakable. The authority it represented, undeniable. Officer Webb's confident expression faltered for the first time since the encounter began. "Now," Dana continued, her voice gaining the steel-edged tone that had commanded respect in countless interrogation rooms and courtrooms, "I'd like to see the security footage that justified handcuffing my 11-year-old autistic daughter." Officer Chen's face had gone pale. Internal Affairs was every officer's nightmare, the division that investigated police misconduct and corruption. Having the director witness their handling of this situation was a career-ending scenario. "Ma'am, we received a report from mall security about shoplifting," Officer Webb stammered, his earlier authority evaporating like morning mist. "Show me the footage," Dana repeated, kneeling beside her daughter while maintaining eye contact with both officers. "Brielle, sweetie, Mama's here. I need you to try to breathe with me." Brielle's sobs began to quiet slightly at the sound of her mother's familiar voice, though her body continued to shake from the trauma of the encounter. Officer Chen was fumbling with her radio, likely trying to contact their supervisor. The growing crowd had become a sea of smartphone cameras, all documenting the scene from multiple angles. The officer's handling of the situation was being preserved in high-definition video from dozens of perspectives. "The security footage," Dana pressed, her patience wearing thin. "I assume you reviewed it before approaching a minor with allegations of theft." The truth was becoming clear through their silence. No footage had been reviewed. No proper investigation had been conducted. They had acted on a report, possibly from a store employee, without verifying the facts or following proper protocol for interactions with minors. A new voice joined the conversation. "Excuse me, officers?" A young man in a mall security uniform approached, his expression troubled. "I'm Tom Rodriguez, head of mall security. I think there might be some confusion here." Officer Webb spun toward the security guard, relief flooding his features. Here was someone who could validate their actions, justify their approach. "You called in the shoplifting report?" he asked eagerly. Tom shook his head slowly. "No, sir. We received a complaint from a customer who thought she saw something suspicious. But when we reviewed the security footage, we clearly saw the young lady and her mother paying for all their items. The receipt matched the surveillance video perfectly." The silence that followed was deafening. Dana felt her professional calm cracking as the full scope of what had occurred became clear. Her daughter had been terrorized, handcuffed, and traumatized based on nothing more than a false report that hadn't even been properly investigated. "In fact," Tom continued, oblivious to the growing tension, "I was just about to call your department to cancel the request for assistance when I saw the commotion over here." Dana's eyes locked onto Officer Chen, then Officer Webb. 20 years in law enforcement had taught her to recognize the moment when guilt and realization hit. It was happening now, in real time, as both officers understood the magnitude of their mistake. "So let me understand this correctly," Dana said, her voice carrying across the now silent crowd. "You approached my daughter, demanded she submit to a search, destroyed her property, handcuffed her during an autism meltdown, all without reviewing the security footage that would have immediately cleared her of any wrongdoing." Officer Webb's hand moved toward his radio, likely seeking guidance from his supervisor. But Dana's next words stopped him cold. "Oh, and officers. You might want to know that this entire interaction has been captured on mall security cameras in high definition. The footage has already been automatically forwarded to my office for review. As part of our comprehensive monitoring program for all police interactions with minors. This was the second twist. The revelation that would change everything. Not only was Dana in a position of authority over them, but the evidence of their misconduct was already being processed through official channels. The color drained from Officer Chen's face as the implications sank in. Improper detention of a minor, failure to follow protocol, destruction of property, and causing trauma to a child with special needs, all captured on video and now in the hands of Internal Affairs. Dana gently helped Brielle to her feet, the handcuffs making the process awkward and degrading. Her daughter's face was streaked with tears, her breathing still irregular from the meltdown. "Keys," Dana commanded, extending her hand toward Officer Webb. He fumbled with his key ring, his hands shaking slightly as he unlocked the handcuffs. The metal fell away from Brielle's wrists, leaving red marks on her dark skin where the restraints had been too tight. The crowd had grown to nearly 100 people, drawn by the commotion and the drama of the unfolding confrontation. Many continued recording, understanding instinctively that they were witnessing something significant. Dana gathered her daughter's scattered belongings, her movements deliberate and controlled despite the rage building inside her. The weighted blanket was dirty from the mall floor. The sensory cards would need to be replaced. The carefully organized system that helped Brielle navigate the world had been destroyed by two officers who couldn't be bothered to verify their facts. "Mama," Brielle whispered, her voice hoarse from crying, "I want to go home." "Soon, baby," Dana replied, her voice gentle with her daughter, but her eyes never leaving the two officers. "First, Mama needs to take care of something." A new commotion was beginning at the far end of the mall corridor. The weekend charity fashion show was about to begin, an annual event that raised money for local children's programs. A portable stage had been erected near the main entrance, complete with professional lighting and a massive LED screen for displaying event sponsors and promotional videos. Dana's mind was racing, processing options and consequences. She could handle this through official channels, file reports, initiate investigations. The process would be thorough, but slow, and the officers might face nothing more than administrative discipline. Or she could ensure that the community understood exactly what had happened here today. "Officer Webb, Officer Chen," she said, her voice carrying the authority of her rank. "You're both going to accompany me to witness the fashion show. Consider it a community relations exercise." Neither officer was in a position to refuse. They fell into step behind Dana and Brielle as they made their way toward the growing crowd around the stage area. The fashion show was a significant community event, attended by local officials, business leaders, and families from throughout the region. The charity it supported provided services for children with developmental disabilities, making it particularly relevant to what had just occurred. Dana recognized several faces in the crowd as they approached. Mayor Patricia Williams stood near the front, chatting with members of the city council. Local business owners networked while their children participated in the fashion show preparations. The event coordinator, an enthusiastic woman named Jennifer, was testing the sound system when she spotted Dana approaching. "Colonel Carter," she called out warmly, "I'm so glad you could make it. Are you here to support the children's programs?" "Actually, Jennifer, I need to make a brief announcement before the show begins. It's regarding children's safety and community policing." Jennifer's expression shifted to one of concern. "Of course. Is everything all right?" Dana glanced back at the two officers, who were beginning to understand that their ordeal was far from over. "I think the community needs to see something important." The crowd began to settle as the fashion show was about to commence. Children in colorful outfits lined up backstage, while parents positioned themselves for optimal photo opportunities. The LED screen flickered to life, displaying the event sponsors and welcoming messages. Dana approached the event coordinator with a small device in her hand, a secure tablet connected to the police department's evidence management system. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jennifer announced over the sound system, "before we begin tonight's fashion show, Lieutenant Colonel Dana Carter from the State Police would like to address the community on an important matter of public safety." Dana took the microphone, her years of public speaking experience helping her project calm authority despite the fury burning inside her. "Thank you all for attending this wonderful event supporting our children," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the mall's central atrium. "I'm here tonight, not just as a community member, but as Director of Internal Affairs for the State Police, and as a mother." The audience settled into attentive silence, sensing the gravity in her tone. 30 minutes ago, my 11-year-old daughter, who has autism, was handcuffed and traumatized by 2 police officers based on a false accusation of shoplifting that was never properly investigated. A murmur of shock rippled through the crowd. Several people turned to look at the 2 officers standing awkwardly at the edge of the gathering. I want to share with you the security footage of this incident, not to embarrass anyone, but to ensure that our community understands what happened here today and how we can prevent it from happening to other children. The LED screen flickered, and then the mall security footage began to play. The high-definition cameras had captured everything: the initial approach, Brielle's obvious distress, the destruction of her belongings, the handcuffing during her meltdown. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the events unfolded on screen. Parents instinctively pulled their own children closer. Several people began recording the screen with their phones, understanding that this footage would have significant impact beyond the immediate audience. When the video ended, Dana continued her address. "My daughter did nothing wrong. She had receipts for all her purchases. She attempted to comply with the officer's requests despite her disability. She was treated as a criminal for having an autism meltdown triggered by their aggressive approach." Mayor Williams was pushing through the crowd, her face pale with understanding of the political implications of what she was witnessing. "As Director of Internal Affairs, I'm announcing that both officers will face immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. As a mother, I'm asking this community to consider how we train our officers to interact with children, particularly those with special needs." The applause began slowly, starting with a few parents who understood the courage it took to stand up publicly against police misconduct. It grew stronger as the crowd recognized the significance of what Dana was doing, using her position and authority to protect not just her own child, but all children in their community. Officer Webb stepped forward, his career instincts finally overriding his shock. "Ma'am, with respect, this is a personnel matter that should be handled through proper channels." Dana's eyes met his, and her response carried the weight of 20 years in law enforcement. "Officer Webb, when you handcuffed my 11-year-old daughter in front of 100 witnesses, you made it a public matter. When you traumatized a child with autism based on an unverified report, you made it a community safety issue. When you failed to follow basic protocol for interactions with minors, you made it an internal affairs matter." She paused, letting her words sink in before delivering the final blow. "And when you did all of this while being recorded by multiple security cameras and civilian phones, you made it a matter of public record." The crowd erupted in applause, understanding that they were witnessing not just an act of parental protection, but a demonstration of accountability in action. Mayor Williams reached the front of the crowd and took the microphone. "Colonel Carter, on behalf of our community, I want to apologize for what happened to your daughter today. We will be reviewing our police training protocols immediately, with particular attention to interactions with children who have special needs. The fashion show proceeded, but the real drama had already concluded. Dana sat with Brielle in the front row, her daughter finally calm in her mother's protective presence. The weighted blanket had been cleaned and returned to its comforting roll across Brielle's shoulders. As the children walked the runway in their colorful outfits, Dana reflected on the events of the day. Justice was not always served in courtrooms or through official channels. Sometimes it required courage, position, and the willingness to use both in defense of those who could not defend themselves. Her phone buzzed with text messages from colleagues who had already seen the footage online. Word was spreading through social media at the speed of modern communication. By evening, the video would be viral, sparking conversations about police training, autism awareness, and the importance of accountability in law enforcement. Officer Webb and Officer Chen had been escorted from the premises by mall security, their badges and weapons secured pending the internal investigation. Their careers in law enforcement were effectively over, ended not by criminal charges, but by the court of public opinion and the evidence of their own actions. 3 weeks later, the consequences of that Saturday afternoon at the mall continued to unfold. The officers faced felony child abuse charges after the district attorney reviewed the evidence. The police department implemented new training protocols for interactions with individuals who have developmental disabilities. The community rallied around the cause, raising funds for autism awareness and sensory-friendly public spaces. Most significantly, the mall announced the creation of Brielle's Haven, a sensory-friendly shopping area designed specifically for individuals with autism and other developmental differences. The space featured soft lighting, reduced noise levels, and trained staff who understood the needs of neurodivergent shoppers. Dana stood in the new space on opening day, watching Brielle explore the carefully designed environment with wonder and comfort. The weighted blankets and sensory tools that had been scattered across the mall floor that terrible day were now available for any child who needed them. "It's perfect, Mama," Brielle said, her voice filled with the joy that had been absent for weeks following the incident. "I feel safe here." Safety. It was such a simple concept, yet so precious when it was threatened. Dana had used her position and authority to ensure that no other child would experience what Brielle had endured. The two officers who had caused so much trauma were now facing the consequences of their actions through the justice system. But perhaps the most important outcome was the community's response. Parents who had never considered the challenges faced by children with autism now understood the importance of patience and understanding. Business owners were implementing autism-friendly practices. School systems were reviewing their emergency protocols to ensure that children with special needs were protected rather than criminalized during crisis situations. The incident had been traumatic, but it had also been transformative. Sometimes justice required more than legal proceedings and administrative discipline. Sometimes it required a mother's courage and a community's commitment to doing better. As Dana watched her daughter play peacefully in the sensory-friendly space, she reflected on the power of accountability and the importance of using one's position to protect the vulnerable. The badge she wore represented not just authority, but responsibility to ensure that justice was served, that the community was protected, and that children like Brielle could navigate the world with dignity and safety. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the skylights of Brielle's Haven, illuminating a space where children could be themselves without fear of misunderstanding or persecution. It was more than just a shopping area. It was a symbol of what could be accomplished when a community came together to support its most vulnerable members. Dana smiled as she watched Brielle demonstrate the weighted lap pad to a younger child who was visiting the space for the first time. Her daughter had transformed from victim to advocate, helping other children understand and access the tools that could make their public experiences more comfortable and successful. The trauma of that day at the mall would always be part of their story, but it was no longer the end of the story. Instead, it had become the beginning of something beautiful, a community commitment to understanding, acceptance, and protection for all children, regardless of their differences or disabilities. Justice had been served, not just through the legal system, but through the more powerful force of community transformation. The officers who had terrorized an 11-year-old girl faced criminal charges and the end of their careers. The community that had witnessed the incident had responded with education, advocacy, and action. And, most importantly, children like Brielle now had a space where they could exist safely and comfortably, supported by adults who understood their needs and committed to protecting their dignity. As they prepared to leave Brielle's haven that day, Dana felt a profound sense of completion. The trauma had been real and lasting, but so was the healing that had emerged from the community's response. Her daughter would carry the scars of that afternoon for years to come, but she would also carry the knowledge that when injustice occurred, people of conscience would stand up and fight back. The mall buzzed with its usual Saturday energy, but now it included the peaceful corner where children with special needs could shop and play without fear. The fluorescent lights still cast their harsh glare, but in Brielle's haven, they were filtered through specially designed panels that created a softer, more comfortable environment. Dana Carter had used her badge and her position to protect her daughter and her community. The officers who had caused such trauma were facing justice through the criminal courts. The community had rallied to create lasting change that would benefit countless children in the years to come. It was, she reflected as they walked toward the parking lot, exactly what justice should look like, not just punishment for wrongdoing, but transformation that prevented future harm and protected the innocent. The sound of children's laughter echoed from Brielle's haven as they left, a beautiful reminder that sometimes the most powerful response to injustice is the creation of something better, something safer, something that ensures the next generation will not face the same challenges. Justice had been served, and with it came the promise of a better future for all children.